All right, ladies and gentlemen, Zims and Zers, they bees with or without babies. Welcome to episode 42 of Fehr the Burn. If you're new here, my name is Chandler Fehr. I'm the podcast host of this. And honestly, I haven't done a podcast in a couple of months because we've currently been going through the Bible Secrets series. If you've been paying attention to that, thank you everyone who's kind of tracked along from the foundation of the world into the formation of the Bible, who Jesus is, why we may not need him, why we do need him, all of those great things. We have 4 more episodes to go on that, including the Holy Spirit, who is she, sexuality, Mosaic law, what laws God may or may not want you to follow. All of these great things you can find on our YouTube page, Spotify, anything like that. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with everything. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we are here to dive into someone who we've talked about this podcast before. This is our first Zoom episode ever, so if things sound or look a little bit different, that's probably why. But we are here to talk to the sponsor of our podcast, the sole sponsor of our podcast. Please let me welcome Darien, the Duelist Orvin. What's up, Darien?
What's up? Hi,
Hey,
guys. Thanks for watching.
Hey man. So Darien, before we get into it, can you kind of give me a little description of, like, from you? How would you describe yourself?
I don't really know. I don't really ever describe myself. I'm a business owner. I own Empower Fitness with my friend Rob Eastman. I'm an MMA fighter, youth mentor, mental health advocate, and I feel like that's just about where all my time is right now. I like musical theater. I like Dungeons and Dragons. um, and I like hunting and stuff like that. So
You may or may not be the most well-rounded individual of all time, is what I'm hearing from you. So, yeah, man. So we met. I reached out to you early on in the process of this podcast to see if you wanted to sponsor us. You were like, "What is it going to take?" I essentially was like, "You don't have to pay us anything. I just want to talk about you because I really am interested in your journey." Because you came out, I guess, as an MMA fighter, if we want to put it like that.
yeah.
But I met you because you had worked at the same theater that I had up in Garden Valley at Starlight. So I kind of knew you as like a musical theater person. So I want to start there. What was like your first interest in musical theater? How did you get started? Like, how does that all kind of come about?
So that's all on my sister. So growing up, my sister was always saying that she wants to be an actress and stuff like that. And so me like looking up to my sister, wanting to do the same. I think it was my junior or sophomore year in high school. She's like, "Hey, you should come and do this or audition for the choir." So I was like, "Okay, I guess." So I auditioned. It was terrible, but my mom was there and she was friends with all the people who got to vote whether I make it or not. And she's like, "Hey, like he's actually kind of good. Like you should let him in, even though his audition was bad." And so I actually ended up, yeah. So I made it into the choir. So I did the choir for all 3 years of high school. I ended up getting like the biggest, nerdiest choir award, like this plaque. And I was pretty proud of that. I worked pretty hard for it. And then um, just usually if you're doing the choirs, you're doing the musicals. And so I started doing the musicals as well. And then right after high school, I was kind of like sad and angry and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I decided to audition for a theater company that was by my house. And so I went and auditioned for that. And that is where I met Sky Davis, who now he's the owner of Starlight. So I ended up meeting him. And so then through that, I ended up going up to Starlight. And that's where I met my wife also.
Yeah. So what was that original playhouse that you were auditioning for?
It's called Empress Theater. It's in Magna. So Magna, Utah. It's all right. I tried to do another show there a couple of years ago, but then COVID hit and shut everything down. But
And Sky was the director up there for a while. Is that how you met him?
Yeah, he directed the show Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Because of course he did.
Yeah.
because because what other musical would he be doing outside of Idaho other than Seven Brides?
Yeah.
Sweet man, sweet. That's awesome. So yeah, you met your wife. What was it? 2016?
Yeah. Yeah, 2016.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. How long you guys been? So you guys have been married now? What? 5 years?
Yeah, almost 5 years. 5 years in about a month.
All right. Well, we'll get into this a little bit later, but you need to be careful with your shout outs to all the single ladies after your wins and whatnot. Sweet man. Did you have any like? Obviously, you're trying to follow your sister's footsteps, but did you have any like aspirations to do like acting or musicals, anything like that?
Um, yeah, I did. So after I did Starlight, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I still hadn't had like I didn't really have any plans for college or anything. And I decided I wanted to try and get into Juilliard, and
Wow.
yeah, and so then I started kind of like dabbling in the process of doing that. And then just after some time, I was like, you know what, I don't need to go to college for acting. So then I just kind of down that loophole of not wanting to go to college, realizing I don't need to, and then becoming like anti-college. Um, I still wasn't really ever sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a business owner, I guess. That was my new plan. But acting now for me, it's not really in the past, but ever doing anything big with it, I'm not pursuing that.
Yeah, like just more as like a hobby and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what I was gonna say is like after I saw you up there, because I mean we met. I worked there this summer after you did, so we met briefly in passing at one point, and you had like uber long hair going on at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and after that, we became friends on Facebook, and I just noticed that you were really interested in developing businesses, which was like the next like path that I saw you take. You were doing like an airsoft type thing at one point. It looked like a war simulation. Is this true? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, that's right. It was like I had a mobile app that would like track your location, and it would track your like food and water or whatever. They would like go down over time, and you had to scan QR codes to get them back up. Because I wanted to open like this massive field, but that was cool concept, but I'm not the person to do that. I don't have the,
Right.
the assets to be able to make that thing. So tried that, and that failed. After that, I tried like running parties and stuff with one of my friends, which is weird because I hate parties, but whatever. So we did that. That failed. I feel like there was something else that I tried and failed. Like I don't know, lots of trial and failure, and then eventually I was able to get this gym, and so far, so good. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've been doing stuff with the gym and boxing. I saw what became really big for you. And now obviously you're doing MMA stuff. So like, how much was health kind of like important to you before all of this?
um, I always kind of stayed in shape, and I guess body image for me growing up was like I was super skinny, and so I was like uh very insecure about that. And so just maybe once a week or whatever, I'd work out. And then during gym class, like running the mile and stuff, I was always pretty quick at that. So I was always relatively athletic, but I never played any sports in high school, and never really cared to, or didn't. I never saw myself going down the path of being a MMA fighter or anything like that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, so like obviously it's been a journey that's like grown for you over time, right?
Mhm.
And it really seems like you're really big on mental health stuff too, which I mean I love. So like how did have those things like kind of gone hand in hand with you? Talking about body image, and maybe like self like insecurity that comes along with that. Because another thing that I love about you, man, like honestly, truthfully, like in the bottom of my soul is how honest you are, especially on social media, because that's just not something we see ever is people really talking about insecurities or where they might feel like they're falling short, and especially within you talking about your opponents as well in MMA, like you give them a lot of credit and you're very honest and open with it. So how have those two things kind of correlated with you as well?
Uh, so just working out in general, definitely like has very great mental health benefits. It always has. And then once you take it, I guess, to the next level in competitive sports, and even a level above that into combative sports where it's one-on-one, then you go through a lot of mental ups and downs and trying to figure out like facing your fears and stuff and finding confidence in yourself. And you have to develop the confidence in yourself, and you develop it by training and becoming more athletic and working with people who are above your skill level, and they're helping you out. And so I pretty quickly saw the mental health aspects of combat sports. Like going into a gym, I didn't necessarily have an ego when I started, but whatever shreds of an ego I did have were quickly beaten out of me. And then I was like, okay, I, gotta reconsider who I am as a person and not put my entire mental health on the fact that I am or am not a good fighter, whatever that may be. And so then I wanted to start to share that with other people and be like, hey, come and do you don't have to do combat sports, even if it's just weightlifting. We got weightlifting at the gym. Like, come and start doing something, realize a passion for it, develop a passion for it, and grow as a person. Set goals. Goal setting is a really big thing for getting out of ruts of mental health and stuff like that. So you set goals, and you begin to pursue those things and grow as a person. And so that's something that I wanted to share with everybody, and also just kind of share my story about it, because I never really had an issue like being open about who I am or whatever. Like, if people don't, I don't know. I've never had anybody not like me for being who I am. So I can't really be like me or hate me. I'll be who I am, because everybody, and I guess it might sound like egotistical, but everybody I've ever met likes me. So
Right.
it's worked out.
Yeah, just wait for the day that you come across the person who doesn't, man. Hell's gonna freeze over that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So before we get into fighting, because I mean that's really what we're on here to talk about, is like your upcoming fight and everything like that. Just real quick, like for me or for anyone else who's out there, I currently am struggling with my. I mean, I've always kind of struggled with my weight and my body image and things like that as well. And like struggling really jumping back on the wagon. I'm someone who is really sporadic with a lot of things. Like I'll get really into something and then I kind of like fall out, and then I get really into something and I fall out. And I've heard that, consistency is the key to everything. But for someone who's like me in like the position where, I currently am just north of like 300 pounds and like struggling to like do that, what would you say is like, what advice would you give, I guess?
Baby steps is my biggest thing. Like, I've had friends that they're so ready to change their life, they'll jump into the gym, they'll go to the gym like 7 days a week for 2 or 3 hours for like 2 weeks, and then they're burnt out, then they're done, and they can't do anymore. So if you start with walking a half mile a day, and then maybe jogging a half mile a day, and then you walk a mile a day, just start with baby steps and slowly build it. And the biggest thing, I guess, is finding an athletic hobby. Like, it does, like lifting weights for me and stuff, that stuff sucks. I hate lifting weights. I'm starting to like it a little bit more now, but just in general, just going up and picking stuff up and putting it down, I hate that.
You're
And
telling me
so
you're not The
finding,
Rock? You're telling me
yeah, no.
you don't live in the iron jungle?
But something like, for me, it was combat sports. For other people, it's rock climbing or mountain biking. Just find an athletic hobby and start with baby steps.
So do you think boxing was like that like athletic hobby that you first took on?
Yeah, that was it for me. And then I think it was after my like second boxing match, I got kind of like screwed over with a stupid call by the ref, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to MMA where I don't rely on the ref. Like, it's on me to save me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
get
I'm
those finishes.
unconscious.
You used to post when you first started, you were posting those backyard boxing clips on
Yes.
Facebook. Do you ever go back to those now and watch them?
Yes. Also, so this is just being recorded, right? It's not being broadcasted.
No, it's just being recorded right now. Yeah,
Okay,
it's just
can we
us.
pause for like 5 minutes? Because I have to go to the bathroom so bad. I'm doing a water cut right now. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. Do it.
cool. I will be right back.
Word.
Okay,
Sweet.
so the
Boxing.
backyard boxing videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it actually took me a few years to like feel comfortable to go back and watch those, because I was so embarrassed by them. Like, I had like 1 week of training at that point. So I thought that was all I needed, I guess. I don't know. I thought I'd be better than I was. I don't think I had any sparring at that point. And so, yeah, I just got a bunch of my friends and we went and boxed each other in the backyard. One of them, his name's Jackson. He like backhanded me and like knocked me out.
Oh my god.
And yeah, that was wild. So
Oh.
it took me a while, but like then I guess maybe a year ago or two, I was like, oh wait, like finally I was like confident in myself as a fighter. So I was like, okay, I'll just like share these again. So that way I'm kind of like laughing at myself with everybody else to be like, oh look at this, look at me getting knocked out. But yeah, that was, and then I'll go back. Like I wish I had more footage of it so that way I could see like, I mean, I've developed as a fighter like a million times because I actually know how to fight now, but I wish I could find more footage because it's just kind of funny to go back and look at.
Yeah, there was a lot of very interesting techniques flying around for sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm one of those guys who's like, oh, I did boxing for 6 months as a kid, so like I have some idea, and like I know that I don't have any idea, but even I saw those videos and I was like, I feel like this needs work. Uh,
Yeah.
Sweet man. So where did you where did boxing come from? Like,
So it was, yeah, like right after high school when I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Oh, I had a job that I just hated so much, and I was like watching fight videos and stuff a lot online. So that I was like, oh, you know what? Like I've always thought being a fighter was so cool. Like I had a friend that did kickboxing in junior high, and he was like the coolest dude. So I was like, okay, I gotta get into that. So started doing boxing, and I only stuck with it for like a week. But then I would hit like the heavy bag and thought that was the same like amount of training or whatever.
right.
Like, oh, I did 1 week of training, but did like 4 months of bag work. So I've been boxing for 4 months or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
it's not the
yeah.
same, not at all.
Yeah, no
So
trainer like pointing out your technique and whatnot,
yeah.
and yeah.
And so
Sweet.
then went back to that same gym on and off for a few years. And then 2018 or 2019, I finally was like, okay, this time, like I'm signing up and I'm going to get a fight. And so then that time, and then I guess pretty much since then I've stuck with it. So
And was that when you got your first MMA fight, or when you got your first boxing
uh
match?
first boxing match. So
Right.
yeah, I did at that point I didn't do any MMA. Then yeah, it's fought, and it was like my first fight, and this guy was like a former silver glove state champion. He has like 4 fights. He had like 10 pounds on me, but I was like, okay, whatever. So I went in, and you know, first fights start bad anyway. So I lost that, and then after that, it was 2020, and so there was like no fighting going on because of COVID. So then finally, I think it was at the very beginning of 2021. Except for it doesn't really seem like it was that. Seems like it was a lot longer than that, but yeah, finally in 2021, I got my second boxing match after like 2 years, and I lost to that guy, but that guy ended up becoming state champion like the
Oh
very
wow.
next fight. Yeah, so then that also in that fight, like, so I got hit, went up against the ropes, I had my hands up, I pivoted out, and then the ref walks up and starts giving me an 8 count, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like, I didn't buckle, I didn't like take any more hits than just that one." So yeah, that was like, okay, I'm done with boxing. Like I like MMA more anyway. So
Do you think
then
it's
I
just because he
began
had you on
then.
the ropes? Like, is it just because you were on the ropes, you think?
Um, I think it's just because I got hit hard, and I don't know, that ref, from what I hear, has had a lot of bad calls. So just a mixture of the two. And the same thing, similar, happened in my first fight, but this one I'm not really too upset about. I got hit and I leaned back on the ropes to kind of come back with momentum. But all the ref saw was me got hit and go back on the ropes. And so I was like, okay, kind of my fault.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Trying to do something sneaky, something
yeah,
Jorge Masvidal like.
yeah.
Sweet man. So yeah, so I just kind of want to walk through your MMA career so far, because I've had the pleasure of seeing every one of your fights over the screen, and then this Friday, November 11th, I'm going to see you live in person, live and direct. Um, what is it happening in Salt Lake? Is that like the actual city that it happens in?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I
like
think
Salt
it's,
Lake
well, I
proper.
think the actual city is like North Salt Lake, but
Okay. Yeah. Still same like area.
Yeah.
Okay, word. Because I bought tickets from you and I was like, I actually don't even know like the address of where this place is. So
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
word. So if anyone else wants it, I'll probably try to put the description down in like the links down in the description and whatnot for the fight pass just to watch it like on screen. And also if you want to buy tickets, we'll figure out a way. We'll get you a link as well. But your first fight was at 45, correct? Like all of your fights up to this point have been at 45?
So actually, so that fight was at 50. We just did a catch weight at 150. And then most of my fights have actually been at 55, but I've been fighting 145 pounders at 55 because I'm like, hey, I know you're my same size. Let's not cut weight because cutting weight is stupid. So then we.
That's crazy. I thought you were fighting at 45 for sure.
Yeah, no, I did have one fight at 45 where we both cut weight, but then the next two opponents that I had, I was like, hey, I know we're the same size. Like, let's just fight at 45 because that was the worst experience of my life.
Was that your second fight?
Yeah, my second fight was at 45.
We'll talk about that guy in a second, but I want to talk about your first fight versus the wrestling guy. I think his name was Jake.
Yeah, Jake Konzal.
And I was excited for this fight, man. I know that you were super open. You're like, this guy is like a D1 wrestler. He's going to come out there. He's going to try to throw me around. And, unfortunately, that's kind of what happened.
Yep.
But I was impressed with you during the fight. Me and my buddy David, we were watching it. We were like, this is so tough for you, bro. But I was encouraged because I was like, even though the guy did have the wrestling advantage over you, you never were in like a dangerous position. Like you always like kept yourself super safe on the ground. And I was like, oh, this is where I know that Darien has like really solid like defensive jujitsu. Like you don't let yourself get out of like into a range where you can really seriously get hurt.
So yeah, that's what in amateur MMA with like 3-minute rounds and stuff, you can stay up for about a minute on average, and then you can stall in jiu-jitsu for like 2 minutes. So that's really all it was. Like, yeah, I was just like, I'm just gonna stall here until the ref stands us up. He did get like pretty close to a rear naked choke in the second round, but yeah, generally like I wasn't really in danger at any point. I was just kind of stalling and hoping the ref would stand us back up, or hoping I could find a way to sweep. But yeah, training for that one. So I don't know who messed up or if there was anything nefarious. I'm just assuming that, benefit of the doubt for everybody. I think it was just a mess up. But I was told, they're like, hey, we got this guy, no previous sports history. He's only been training for a few months. And I was like, oh, cool. I've only been training for a few months, MMA. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And so then we look him up on Facebook, and he's wearing a wrestling onesie in one of his old pictures. I was like, okay, well, that's not no previous sports history.
Yeah.
So then I Google his name, and it pops up news articles that he's like a 2-time state champion wrestler. And I was like, okay, all right, well, I know this guy's going to be super good at wrestling. And so I should have done it different. And some of my coaches were telling me to. I tried to scrape together like once a week for 6 months of training wrestling to beat a college wrestler and a 2-time state champion wrestler. So, 6 months of once a week wrestling isn't enough to keep up. I should have focused on jiu-jitsu, but yeah, then I went and watched the fight back, and the commentators were like, oh, he did Division I wrestling. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's a far cry from no previous sports history. He actually did, I talked to him after he did like Division II wrestling, and then he got into Boise, which is D1, but he got an injury, and then they shut off the program, so he didn't end up actually ever doing D1. But he was good enough for it, and he smoked me, so.
Yeah, they also cut you guys around short on that one, I want to say too, yeah?
It's just a minute in the final round.
It was a minute short. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was your first fight, and I knew that you were going to come back strong. And then your second fight coming into it, I think you guys were both 0-1, or was it that his first fight?
That was his first fight.
Yeah, and he came out, and I was like, oh, this guy is a lot bigger than Darien. I was like, this guy looks like he like weighs more. He's in straight up just like regular ass like basketball shorts, like not even like fighting shorts. I was like, this guy is coming to scrap. And he came at you so hard opening round one.
Yeah, there was a few. So he was shorter than me, but he was a lot more muscular than me. And so then actually for that weight cut, the promoter texted me. He's like, hey, your opponent's going to kind of end up at like 148. He's like, so you can end up around there. And I was like, well, I'm already this close to weight, so I might as well just try and see if I can make it. And so then I was like 146 and he was like 147, but we had to re-sign the contract to be like, hey, I'm okay with him missing 1 pound, whatever. So it didn't matter. And then, yeah, he came out and beat the heck out of me for like a minute and a half, I guess, for that whole entire first round.
I don't
there
know.
was
I
a
think you were
couple
getting your
shots.
shots in first round for sure.
I mean, a couple, but mostly I was like, if this guy's expending this much energy and I can clinch up with him, he's going to gas out in a minute. And so I was kind of just sitting there and there was a few shots to my body and stuff. I was like, holy cow, like, you know, there's no shame in losing this right now. But no, actually, I think my thought was like, I don't want to lose this now, not like this or something like that. So, yeah, that first round was rough. And then just kind of after that, he had a good first minute of the second round. But then once I started finding my range and he started getting more and more tired, then I was able to kind of take it over. It ended up being a split decision, which was stupid, but whatever. I think like after a while, I just kind of stopped checking his legs kicks because they weren't really hurting me anymore because they were more hurting him. So he was pulling on them. And I think just because he landed so many unchecked kicks, one of the judges scored it in his favor. So I was like, whatever. So,
But still, at the end of it, like it took him a while to get back to the middle because he was
yeah.
in pain from the checks.
Yeah, and I went into the back afterwards, and he was definitely hurting a lot more than me. Like I was walking around fine, he was not doing so well. But the rest don't really, or the judges don't really take that into account. Like checked kicks, I don't know, maybe they do, but still ended up being split.
Yeah, it seems like not, especially with the whole like O'Malley, Pedro Munoz fight that just happened, where two of them scored it in his favor. And I think it was like a super high percentage of the kicks that were landed in round one were actually checked. So I don't know. Who knows, man? I'm no MMA judge.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just a fan. And then your third fight, so you won that one. I agree. I don't think it should have been split. I think that you had that fight easy. Round two and round three easy in that fight. And then your next fight was against Kawhi Thompson. Am I getting that guy's name right? I love watching that guy fight, man.
Yeah,
that guy's a baller, bro. Like, he gives me inspiration. And your guys' fight was insane.
Yeah, that was fun. So we actually boxed each other about a month before that. And so he saw my opponent pulled out. So he messaged Pat. He's like, hey, I'll fight him. And so I was like, oh, what the heck? I was like, all right, sure, I'll fight him, I guess. I was like, he's not really an MMA fighter. So I was like, I'll just mix in MMA and, you know, see how it goes. And then my boxing coach actually had coached him and got to know him. And he did wrestling all throughout junior high and high school. So like, another wrestler. Like, dude, I freaking hate these guys. And so I was like, well, I know he likes to stand and strike, so I won't really worry about it. And then day the fight comes, I'm watching the TV screen in the back where they're like setting everything up. And he's in the cage warming up like he's doing duck walks. I was like, he's going to shoot on me. Like, I thought we were going to stand up. So I got in my own head about that. And I texted my coach and I was like, hey, I'm kind of like freaking out. Like, this guy's going to take me down and just lay on me the whole entire time again. Like, I don't want that to happen. And then he's like, well, don't worry about what he's going to do. Like, you do what you're going to do and force your will. And so I was like, okay, sounds like a good plan. And so that's what I did for that first round is I took him down, ended up in dominant position, and ended up getting a 10-8 onto the judges' scorecard. So ended up getting a super dominant round.
Wow.
I think we were both just kind of, I don't know if we were like hesitant about each other's power because we weren't really striking much. We were just kind of poking at each other. And then he ended up getting a couple trip takedowns on me. And I think just because of lack of anything really happening, he won the other two rounds because of those trip takedowns. And so then it ended up being a draw. So I was like, I kind of agree. I feel like I did more damage. Like my damage in round 2 and 3 was just like leg kicks, not really any punches, but pretty lackluster, I think, in the second rounds, second and third. But so I'm okay with a draw. I guess everybody wishes they would have won. So
to date, it's easily your closest fight. So I mean, makes sense that it was a draw. It was wildly close, man. At the end of it, I was like, I was rooting for you, man. I'm always rooting for you, and I was like, I think that he has it. I think that he has it, but I was like, I don't know. Like it's so close.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It makes sense that it was a draw. And I mean, I'd love to see you guys fight again one day. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then because I makes sense to you guys weren't messing around with each other's power because on the card after that, when you fought Andrew Luden, is that guy's last name?
Oh yeah, Lundeen.
Lundeen.
Yeah.
Kawhi knocked whoever he was fighting out. I want to say like TKO'd him or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god! Like and Darien and this guy Drew. I was like, this is insane. This guy's so good.
Yep. Yeah, he got a stoppage, and then I got a stoppage to fight after that. So
yeah, first round too, right?
yeah.
What possessed you in that fight? Because you came out different last fight. I want to say.
That one was just confidence. Like I had a lot of confidence in my ability, just kind of watching his fights and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, he can hit hard, but overall, I didn't really think I was going to be in that much danger at any point. And so watching it back, I don't really like watching that fight. Like my striking was kind of sloppy. I was all over the place. My hair looked bad. And but like I don't know, I just having confidence in myself, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of gonna let myself get comfortable in striking exchanges and then just see what happens. I was kind of thinking like a third round finish, but then my body shots just ended up wearing on him. So I was like, okay, I guess that works. Whatever, got it done. So Andrew's super cool. He's a super tough, scrappy guy. Like, and he's like 2-2, so he's got a fairly decent record. I guess he's 2-3 now. So
yeah, man, I just think you were too much for him. Like you just came on too strong, and yeah, your striking might have been sloppy or whatever, but you knew that you had it in the bag and you went and got it. So at the end of the day, that's what you got to do.
yeah.
So how's camp been now for you? Obviously, we had to pause for a little bit. You had to go take a pee because you're on this water cut and whatnot. So how's it going now? How's camp been?
It's been really awesome so far. So after that last fight, Ramsey, the owner of the pit, he's like, hey, I want you like training 4 days a week, because he's like, that was terrible. Just kidding, he didn't say that, but
he's like, we need your technique better, man.
Yeah. So I started going to the pit 4 days a week, other gyms on Saturdays, and then Sundays kind of resting sometimes. But like I've been at the gym 4 or 5 days a week. And then also I've taken over Eastman since then. So I'm at the gym there doing my own thing, working with the high school wrestlers. So I feel like my improvements as a martial artist for this next fight are going to be like tenfold over what my improvements have been so far in between fights. And hopefully I'm able to show it. We'll see.
And who are you fighting?
His name is Robin Weiss. So so I did a commentary for Still Fist September 30th. So I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. I was like keeping track of my weight and kind of fasted for a day, weighed myself, and I was at 165. And I was like, okay, there's no way I can make 145. So I was like, okay, I'm going back up to 155. And this time I'm going to fight an actual 155er, like someone who's coming down to 155. And so then I went and did the commentary. I saw Robin fight, and I was like, crap, this guy's a lightweight. Like he's in the division that I'm going up to, and he looks so much bigger and so much stronger than me. He even like made me reconsider going up to 155 because I was like, wow, I don't want to fight that guy. And so then they offered me my friend Juan. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll fight Juan. Like that'll be a good intro into 155. And then Juan had some medical problems, so he had to pull out. And so then they're like, hey, you can fight this guy that you're freaking terrified of. And I was like, sure, why not? We'll see. He's like, let's see how it goes. So yeah, just kind of seeing how it goes. But I feel like I've made so much improvement in the past few months that I should have a really good showing regardless of win or lose.
Do you feel like it's a real David and Goliath story? Is that how you're feeling?
I feel that way, but a lot of my coaches and friends are like, it's really not that bad. Like, I guess I'm too far inside my own head. because they're like, oh, they're like, he didn't really look that much bigger than you. I was like, well, I felt like he did because I don't know, maybe it's my body dysmorphia or something. I think I'm still super skinny, and I guess I'm a little taller than him, but everybody's saying like I should fit right in, like I should be fine. He's got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu with a really good gym, so I'm worried about that. But as long as he's not able to wrestle like some of the guys that I've been training with, especially like the high school wrestlers, I should be pretty okay because they struggle in taking me down. So
Yeah, man, your jujitsu's been, I mean, you're known as a boxing guy, but like your jujitsu and your grappling has been, that's what I love focusing on. And so far, like that's the thing that's impressed me the most about your fights is your knowledge in that, and even just on an amateur level, like how good Steel Fist is crazy. So I'm
yeah,
excited. I'm stoked, man. And it could also be, the fact that you've been fighting 45ers. So maybe just like the fact that he looks bigger could just be, like he just looks bigger than Kawhi. Like Kawhi's like, Kawhi's a little guy. Could still kick my ass, certainly. So sweet, man. I'm stoked to come down and watch it. It's gonna be on Friday, November 11th. Before we get out of here, Darien, I want to, on Fehr the Burn, we talk about Christ, corruption, and culture. We've certainly talked about culture and like fighting and your life and things like that. But I'm kind of curious about like the spiritual aspect of your life, and possibly how that comes into fighting. So just off rip, what is like your spiritual connection? Like, I know that 70% of the people probably in our area identify as LDS. Um, I don't know if you are LDS or not, but like, what is your spirituality?
so I grew up LDS, and then I just kind of formed my own beliefs based off of the experience that I've had and the people that I've met and the research that I've done. Um, I believe that there is a God. I believe that we were put on this earth to experience our bodies and experience our lives. Um, so the best way, so my mom would always put it like this. So uh, if I'm like, as if I, as her son, am going out doing drugs, sleeping around, drinking, uh, her love for me as a mother, she would let me into her house back. Like if I needed help and I was willing, she would let me back in. And if God's love for us is 1,000 times more than any love we'll ever know, then if we're out here running amok, doing our own things, there's no reason that God would turn us away. That being said, I don't smoke or drink or anything like that, but for the people who do, I don't shun them or look down on them. They're out here living their lives and experiencing their bodies. I think the highest form of love that you can show somebody is appreciating something that they have created. And so if God created all of us, I believe that it's our duty to love our own selves and love each other and utilize the tools and the nature around us that God has given us to appreciate it and really use it to its full ability. And
Do
so
you
that's,
Go ahead?
I was just saying that's basically what I believe.
Do you like attend any sort of church, or is it just the gym for you?
Yeah, just the gym for me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's a church. One thing my friend says, Rob Eastman says a lot, is that churches should be hospitals for the sick. And I don't feel like I'm really sick. I don't feel like I need to go to the hospital spiritually or whatever. I don't feel like I need to attend church. I feel like I have a really good relationship with God as I am, and I don't need weekly reminders to keep myself in check, I guess.
Well, and you're kind of like, I mean, I know that you're not saying that, the gym isn't a church or whatever, but with what Rob says, with it being like a hospital for the broken and whatnot thing, like, hospital for sick people, like you're almost a minister, like a pastor. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because while you also need to like move and be active in that way, like you're influencing and trying to inspire people to like do the same and like bring that out of them. So
yeah.
I think it's beautiful, man. I think it's absolutely beautiful. When it comes to fighting, is there anything like spiritual that you feel about fighting, or Does your spirit come out more? Do you feel it at all more? Like,
not really. I feel like right now, I feel like I'm dealing more with the mental aspects rather than the spiritual aspects. I need to get mastery over my mind before I can get mastery over anything else with combat sports right now.
beautiful. Beautiful, man. That's what life's about, right? Just mastering the mind, keeping it going. Darien, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it. I know that we've had some issues with scheduling and whatnot, but I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited to come down. Hopefully I'll be able to see you at some point out of the cage.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whatever. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you kind of want to talk about or say before we send these lovely people off?
No, I got everything cleared. I got to go to the bathroom again, so.
Amazing, man. Well, hey, thank you, Darien. I really appreciate it, bro. And everybody, check out the fights. Buy them if you want. Buy some tickets. Come down. Come see me. Come see Darien. It'll be dope. We'll see you next week for the Holy Spirit. Who is she? Bye, bitches.
Showed me love when I was a young, ain't no magistrate. I had to wait for my chance, but it didn't pass today. I'm not a castaway like Tom Hanks in the cast to play. Work for everything, but every day I pass away. To myself and all my worldly possessions, obsessions, coming to the altar, the Father with my earthly confessions. I am destined like John to be a legend. I am next in line to see my time.